Welcome back to the third episode. In the last episode we've discovered newer information about the Elder, which ended up to being Sihasrala, and he has tasked us in obtaining our first pendant in this dungeon. Also, we get to fight the very first boss of the game, which is a pretty exciting step in this playthrough, because we're making a lot more progress. As you're seeing right now, the boomerang is good at stunning enemies, but it doesn't work as well on certain enemies. Just to give a fair warning, but it does give off the advantage of being capable of killing a foe while it's stunned. Right now, the boomerang isn't at full capacity. What I mean is that some of the gear is upgradable in the game. In this section, watch out or you might get South Parked. Hey, look, the scary and spooky skeleton crew is here. We have Brook from One Piece, Sans from Undertale, and Skeletor from He-Man. Sadly, they've had to go. Now on with the rest of the dungeon. I'd like to take a moment to speak about the future of the channel. I am currently working on another playthrough on the side, which might get uploaded at the same time as A Link to the Past or possibly after. Expected to be uploaded by the end of the month or sometime in May. This will all depend on the status of how far I am into editing process for this current playthrough. Oh no, the Skelly boys are back and they want me dead, and they brought back up. This will be an occurrence when it comes to dungeons, where we can communicate to Sahasrara through tiles. Also, we'll need to come back later for that large chest, since it requires the big key to unlock the dungeon item, which shall require the key. This is pretty frequent in Zelda games as a formula. The big key is pretty close from here, so it should be rather quick. That was close. You see the enemy in green, they're called Igor. Those enemies are weak to get their eyes poked and slashed at with the fighter's sword. Also, a bow and arrow is just as effective. But the red Igor is strong against the blade, so you're left with the other option. Speaking of a bow and arrow, it is the item that we're going to obtain very soon. Now let's go and get our first pendant. Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, that's how you escape a bunch of flying skulls and skeletons. This is unrelated to what's going on, but have you ever seen any of Nintendo's old commercial for the Zelda series, which is anything before the release of Four Swords? In this context, since we're playing A Link to the Past, let's speak about those ones. The Japanese side of the marketing team made a music video-like commercial that advertised the game, where they've had people dressed as the characters, and they've had a choreography too. The commercial was only a few minutes long. The song was closer to hip-hop in its sound, and they even had sound effects and bits of music from their own games. Let's move over to the American side of the commercials. Some commercials for this game featured more of a cinematic storytelling, where it gave a sense of adventure and was more like a movie trailer. The adventure side of things suited the series like a glove as a commercial. There was other ones too, and if I can find them again, I'll link them in the description when possible. Also, we're getting closer to the boss now, which is great. Don't forget to begin with full health when entering the boss room. It will come in handy. I'll just keep talking while we're heading in that direction. I might as well bring up the topic of the manga. It featured an original character who's called Ganti. She had attacked the carriage that Link was on and that she had fought against the knights. In that moment, our hero saw an opening for escaping to Kakariko village. When Ganti catched up with him, in one panel she stole Link's apple, which had been blessed back at the church. Ganti's expression was drawn in a way where it looked like she was being sneaky about it too. The two of them would later team up and go on an adventure throughout the manga. Usually the Zelda mangas are pretty straightforward and skip on some of the dungeon exploration, which is great to keep on the pace in a manga format for a video game related manga going by in general. Not everything related to video games had great adaptations. A well-known example is the movie for Mario Brothers. This conversation shall be for another day. Hey look, there's the red Igor. Green and red Igor reminds me of the blue ogre and red ogre in Japanese mythology, simply going by the color differences. In the boss fight with Armor's Knights, we'll be using the bow and arrow. The fighter's sword takes about 16 hits for each statue, which is nearly 100 hits required. It takes about 3 arrows for each statue. That makes it about 18 hits to reach the second phase. In this situation, your last resort should be your sword. As you might have guessed, the pendant names matches one of the 3 pieces of the Triforce. The pendant of courage matches that of Link. Before we end the episode, I'll need to begin the preparations for the next episode. So let's collect whatever we can at this time. Personally, I'd rather do it now than wait for episode 4, since we'll be able to get right into the third dungeon of the game. Before running again, what other games would you like to see on the channel? Also, is there anything that you'd think that could be improved, or any questions in particular that you'd wish to ask? Now let's proceed with the playthrough. We've had obtained the mushroom back in episode 1. It shall help in creating magic powder, which shall make anti-fairies into regular fairies. This is mostly going to help later in the game as things become more difficult, so don't expect it to happen for a number of episodes. For anyone playing, let me show you what each tombstone has underneath, just to save you some time. We're back into Kakariko Village, not for long though, since we're getting the Book of Mudora at the library. This book will help us in entering the next dungeon. We shall get back to it in a little bit, so let's head for the cave of where we've had obtained the ice rod. In the next episode, we shall finalize our preparations and shall head to the second dungeon next.